Joining us now to discuss intermodal sea container security risks, as well as available solutions used as mitigation measures, and to reveal the most common challenges companies facing, are Pana Laimos, Vice Chairman, and Michalis Chronopoulos, Head of Security Risk Management at G4S Telematix. Now, this presentation aims to help delegates understand how a company with high-value theft-targeted HVTT goods can use technology and cross-border monitoring services to prevent losses in their intermodal supply chains. So a special welcome to Pana and Michalis.
So hello everyone and welcome to our virtual booth. My name is Pana Laimos and I'm the Vice Chairman and Executive Board Member of G4S Telematics. Today with my colleague Michalis Chronopoulos, the Head of Security Risk Management in G4S Telematics, I'll share with you a short presentation on the multimodal container transport security. I've checked the participants roster and I realized that I know most of you, either through the TAPA conferences or training sessions or due to operational cooperation. For those of you that I do not know, I would be more than happy to get acquainted to you face-to-face, and I would like to give you a short description of my background in the supply chain security industry. For the last 17 years, I'm leading the transportation and supply chain security solutions, including advisory services, integrated solution, and monitoring and response activities, offered to Europe, Middle East, and Africa by G4S Telematics, a G4S Europe company, part of Allied Universal, located in Athens, Greece. What we offer actually in G4S Telematics is the monitoring services that protect the drivers and the cargo and also improve supply chain efficiency. Above services are offered consistently for the last 20 years, servicing actually the most demanding brands internationally. Please keep in mind that all data included in this presentation are based on real field tests and operations, properly modified, of course, to ensure confidentiality of information. So some of you might find things that look familiar. The reason for this presentation is that lately we have received several requests from our customers to monitor sea containers through portable tracking devices. And we wanted to share with you our experience, as well as to give you some practical hints related to the effective application of such solutions. The topics that we shall cover today are presented on the slide, and actually it will be a short description of the intermodal sea container transportation, the road transportation part, the port and customs, the sea transportation, how we actually do real-time monitoring and what actually do we monitor, some conclusion and recommendations. And Michalis, the head of our security risk management division, shall present at the end the way G4S deals with these challenges, as well as a very, very interesting case study. So based on the latest updated version of TAPA TSR, there are 3 levels of sea container transportation security that have been introduced. As you probably noticed, these requirements cover only the road transportation part of the operation. So we thought with our customers that it would be a good idea to expand this requirement, especially related to monitoring and response, to the sea leg of the container transportation as well. We are all familiar with the road transportation security risks that are presented in the slide. That might be the theft of the trailer, the theft of the container, partial theft of cargo, smuggling drugs. But what are actually the security risks during a sea transportation of the containers? Definitely, we don't have the risk of drivers being attacked, but maybe we have the risk of partial theft of cargo or even smuggling of illegal stuff. What we have learned so far is that portable tracking devices are not the best way to locate a container when it is transported in the land, because the accuracy of localization sometimes might be even 10 square kilometers. But do we actually care about the accuracy of location reported by a device when it is at sea? Later, we shall show you that it is much easier to locate the vessel rather than a container. And we will show you some ways to do this. The major deficiency of the GPS GSM traditional container tracking is that most of the times during the sea leg of the transportation, there is no GSM coverage. The use of alternative satellite communication might be effective, but it is not at the moment but currently it is very, very above the affordable cost for tracking. The ideal solution, which might be complex, would be the one where the tracking device gets connected to the vessel positioning system, the AIS, and all data from the device are transferred to the monitoring center via the AIS regular daily transmission. But this solution is extremely complicated and needs to be micro-adjusted every time a container is loaded on a ship. So this would be a really ideal solution. So technically, we have the solution. It's complex, but we have it. Since the typical sea containers the sea containers cannot offer power source for any kind of security system, the concept of portable tracking devices prevailed in the design of such solutions. The easiest way forward was to use the already in place portable tracking devices for compliance monitoring purposes, like temperature or humidity, and to use this device for security purposes as well. At the beginning, it looked like a good idea to cover both compliance and security needs with a common solution. But when the unfortunate time came and we needed to recover these containers in the road part of the transportation, we were unable to do it effectively because in some cases the accuracy of localization was poor, and in some other cases the batteries of the devices died before the conclusion of the recovery operation. Thanks God, all these things happened in the pilot testing runs and not in actual operations. So what do we actually need and expect from a portable tracking and sensing device? We actually need accuracy, and we also need battery capacity. In loss prevention, we need to think and act like criminals, because criminals will not follow the technical specification that we have taken into account in order to design the solution. There is also a very important part of the land-sea transportation, which is very risky. And this location are the port facilities. Legally, in some countries, the port facilities are considered as land, and in some other, they are considered as sea. The easiest way to clarify this is to check which authorities are authorized to supervise these facilities. Is it the regular police or is it the Coast Guard? Just to show you, in this situation, in these areas, we run the risk of people entering the containers. You can see two incidents happen in 14th of January and 16th in January in Salerno, Italy, and in UK, where migrants were identified within containers. You all know the importance of predefined and tested response protocols in case you monitor your routes and you receive an alarm signal. So monitoring by itself means nothing. Monitor with the combination of response protocols means everything. So what we need to do here is to make sure that we have effective response protocols when something happens. And to be honest, keep in mind that we need to change the way that we think. In principle, when we have a road transportation, the best thing to do is to be able to respond on site in a very small period. But this is impossible at sea. So before you deploy this kind of solutions, you need to define and test the response protocols. And in order to define the response protocols, you need to understand the technical capabilities and limitation of your devices. So what we strongly recommend when you have portable devices is test them. Just put two devices identically programmed, each next to each other, and do a pilot run. And then see what are the locations reported. If the locations reported are quite away from each other, and this is not because the devices are not good, this is because the devices are not designed for this. The devices are designed to monitor temperature compliance, and they are not designed for security and loss recovery. So if they use GSM localization, it is practically impossible to give accurate location. So just check the devices to see what are the errors that they do in localization. When it goes to battery, please test the battery devices according to your operational need. So you put, let's say, you need to have during road transportation a 15 minutes or 5 minutes reporting rate according to the TAPA TSR. But when it goes to sea, definitely you don't need to report every 5 minutes. So maybe you can report, let's say, once a day. And this report once a day, how it will reach your monitoring station. If it is in the middle of the sea, it will never receive. So maybe you need to be able to program this device when they go into sea to fall asleep. Wake up once a day to check if everything is okay, and then fall asleep again to save some battery. So battery test would be very, very, very important in order for you to understand what your device do and for how long your device can do what it is supposed to do. And if we go at the end, this is the most important part of these devices. In this multimodal operation, the land part of monitoring and response is similar to the one we use for regular trucks. But in the sea part, Michalis, that shall take over in a while to present you the findings of one of our case studies that addresses the methodology, will explain also what would be in some cases some very effective response protocols for early warning of security incidents. Now, if we go to conclude, to present some conclusion, we would say that there is no one size that fits all solution for the effective tracking and monitoring in the intermodal sea container transportation. It's different to do open sea transportation. It's different to do, let's say, lake transportation. It's different to do short distance transportation. So for each solution, for each operation, you need to design a dedicated solution. Each lane has to be assessed separately, and available components should be integrated carefully to form an acceptable solution. Typical GPS GSM autonomous container tracking solution can be actually an integral part of the solution, but alone is not enough. Combination of sea traffic and container tracking data should be presented at the end user in a single integrated form. Road transportation presents significantly high levels of security and loss risks, where sea leg needs to be monitored mainly for operational purposes. And finally, real-time exception monitoring provides a significant added value to the effectiveness of the solution. We have published lately 2 white papers related to route risk assessment and compliance and loss prevention in pharma. For those of you that are interested, you can check on the More tab in our virtual booth, and you shall be able to download. There you can also find some other publication that might be for your interest and cover this topic as well as other. I will switch off now my presentation and ask Michalis to share his screen for the rest of the session.
Thank you, Pana. Thank you for everything. And my name is Michalis Chronopoulos. I'm the Head of Security of Risk Management in GeForce Telematics. And I'm happy to present this case study related to the multimodal transportation in the containers. And it was a really challenging case that will really bring some value to you and to your operations once we analyze this. So what was the case? The case was that we need to transport tobacco from Europe to South Africa, to Dubai, through the sea leg that Pana has been describing so far. So we had many challenges to tackle here. First of all, we have multiple stakeholders. We have the site, that is the warehouse. We have the loading place. We have the carriers, that it could be the main carrier or subcontractors. Of course, we have the security team that the manufacturer has on top of every operations, and we have the G4S tower and the law enforcement agencies. All of these have to be aligned to communicate and to exchange information in order to make this successful. Of course, you understand that the cargo was high value, which we had a huge impact of loss and a very high value per pallet. And the operations, again, very challenging. We had to cross multiple countries, as you will see later on. The intermodal transportation is critical from its own, and of course, container not having a permanent power make it even very difficult to have some type of solution applied in this transportation. And finally, by applying portable devices, as Pana said, we also have the problem of how we get these devices back when we reach the end destination. So how did we respond to this challenge? First of all, we decided that we will go with portable devices. And we decided that one is not enough. As you will see in the pictures later on, we have concluded on using two devices, one inside the trailer and one outside as a lock that you can remotely activate and deactivate. So we had one device inside with light sensor and other type of sensors, and the external one that it was an add-on to the sealing process that is being used for the container. Of course, we had decided together with the customer about specific events that we would like to monitor, and all these systems should be somehow integrated in order to consolidate the information. Related to operations, we had to have active monitoring during the whole transportation, including road and sea transportation part. And for us to make this successful, we decided that all this information should be consolidated into one monitoring center. So the G4S tower took over, and it was a single point of contact for all the stakeholders, the manufacturer, the 3PL, the transportation companies involved in this case, and of course, the monitoring part and the law enforcement agencies that would be activated in case of need. So what was the case? The case was that we had from Central Europe to move some stuff to the Rotterdam port, which is the most critical port, as you have been described previously in the sessions of TAPA, and the final destination would be Dubai. So you have an understanding here of what was the path that this container followed, and we will explain later on how we managed to conclude on this path and how we have controlled all this information. So in order to validate what we have designed through the risk assessment process, because all our systems are first starting with a risk assessment and then concluding on what type of operations and what type of systems we need to apply, we needed to make some pilot runs. So during this pilot runs, what we had to do is to evaluate the systems and the technology we had in place. We have finalized the communication matrix who has to speak to who in case of escalation, who do we need to inform, how fast, and what is the path of escalation. Of course, all the people should be trained in this chain, from the person in the warehouse that he has to install the device. Installing mean putting it on place. It's not a permanent installation. And commissioning the device, making sure that it's working correctly and is doing what is expected. And of course, following the complete path until the end, the destination. And finally, the confirmation of our risk assessment. Now, during the pilot run, as Pana said, we have different methods of communication. First of all, we had the live tracking for the road leg, which we have concluded that 5 minutes is the reporting rate we wanted to achieve. And during that monitoring, we managed to monitor route deviations, having specific geofence on the lane. We had the no communication and jamming detections, and of course, the unauthorized door opening of the container. Finally, we had a full network of response services applied in the complete run. So whenever we needed, we could activate either specific guards or the police and law enforcement agencies to go on site and check on the cargo. For the sea leg, we have concluded that 1 hour reporting rate was efficient, and the monitoring was related to unauthorized door opening, and we would get an early warning if we had any type of manipulation on the container. So you understand that on the road is the typical monitoring that we do as in all truck and trailers. So you can see here the geofencing, you can see all the messages collected, and we would easily get any violation or deviations. For the road part, for the sea part, you can see that we have also included the vessel ID in the system, so we could get all information through the vessel. And whenever we had the opportunity to get GSM connection, you would see here next to the shore that we had some GSM messages received through the device. Otherwise, we would get all the marine traffic data from the vessel ID, and we have a very good understanding where the container is. So by that, you understand that we can easily get an exception during the sea leg. We have seen that many cases, the seals are tampered, and people would either get some cargo out of the container, or they would put some drugs inside, or whatever other type of issues that we face with containers. Even if this has happened within the sea part, eventually at a point you will get a message from the device through the GSM signal. So before it gets to the end destination, to the port, you already know that this container has been manipulated, and you know that you need to wait for it and to check it before anything else happens. Of course, the solution that we had in place had also other type of sensors, like tilt or humidity or temperature, that are nice to have, and it will bring you also some value and some information that you can very good evaluate and either decide if you need to have some events out of it, or you can have it as an add-on for your cargo condition. So that was the case that we would like to present. Thank you very much for your time. We are open to have any questions that you might have and discuss about the questions and give you more insights about these operations. And we are very happy to hear other cases that you might have.
Pana and Michalis, thank you so much, both of you, for your excellent presentation there. We do have a couple of questions. I'll let you both jump in and tell me who wants to answer each one. Let me start with, how should a security manager react in case a container delivery is postponed due to delays during transportation?
Okay, I will answer this. Thank you. Definitely, there should be some response protocol predefined and tested prior to this happen. So the delay of transportation is a risk that we always take into account. So usually, if the delayed cargo is located in a secure area, they will apply the minimum, let's say, response protocol that requires this cargo to be monitored by the monitoring center. But if it, for some reason, it is delayed, let's say due to a road accident or due to any other incident, probably there might be an escalation protocol that requires on-site guarding to make sure that this container is not, let's say, taken into custody of criminals or have any intrusion in it. So I would say that both these, let's say, situations should be included in the risk assessment, and response protocol should be in place. The first one is easier, just to make sure that it remains under monitoring. The second one is a little more difficult.
Another question that we've had is, can a portable device address the risks of road transportation?
Are
you going to take that one?
The portable depends on the portable devices. So the portable devices that are primarily manufactured for compliance purposes, it might be too difficult to address also the security risks. But there are some devices in the market, portable, designed especially for security. So there is no yes or no, depends on the device and the solution.
Michalis, perhaps this one is for you then. How do you recover or return a portable tracking device that's been used in a multimodal transportation?
That is a tricky question because it's the most difficult problem to retrieve these devices. We have seen two possible options, and to be honest, we promote the first one. So the first one would be that you have a pool of devices that you have in the warehouse or in the manufacturing site that someone could apply on the container, and then you will have your supplier collecting all these devices around the world as a service and making sure that you have enough devices in the origin of the container in order to use. So most of the transportation or 3PL companies, they outsource this part. The second option would be to have ones that are for one use only, that you then throw away. But we have seen that the first one, it seems to be more, let's say, reliable because the devices are more well structured and more robust. So this would be the preferred, let's say, way to go with.
And just finally, on day one of our conference, we heard about the severe disruption which has impacted the sea container industry over the last year or so, and which looks set to continue well into 2022. How has this increased the types of risks that you've both been discussing? And is the level of threat now higher than you've ever seen before? Michalis, is that for you maybe?
I can take it if you want.
Pana, lovely. Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. So yes, as the global stability and way of living is absorbed, is abstracted, is not very stable, the risks definitely increase. So the current situation is a very, very typical situation that in mathematical model give us a very, very good forecast that incidents will happen, risks are increased, so we need to make sure that we are very well prepared to address these situations. So mathematically speaking, scientifically speaking, all the parameters show that there will be an increase in security risk. But sometimes life has its own way to go, but I believe in science.
As many of us do. Wonderful, gentlemen. Well, thank you both so much for your presentations today. Now, for just a reminder as well to all delegates before we leave this room, if you do want to send any questions ahead of day 4 tomorrow, then those can be emailed through to info@tapaemea, all one word, .org. Okay, gentlemen, once again, thank you both very much, and We'll all automatically be going back to the main studio now, where I'm going to have a quick chat with Torsten Neumann.